Hello and welcome to the Tournament Center. I'm Randy Buehler here with Brian David Marshall. We are coming to you from Pro Tour Kyoto, historic event in the history of Magic, the first split format Pro Tour, and also in 10 years of coming to Japan, 380 people I think is the biggest Pro Tour we've ever had in Japan. What are you looking forward to, Brian?
I'm looking forward to seeing what the effect this new format has on players. We're doing a split format. We're going to start with 4 rounds of standard. Then players are going to switch to Shards of Alara, Conflux, draft for 3 rounds. We're going to have a cut, and then we go to draft, close in standard, cut to top 8 standard. You have players playing this weekend who qualified for this event at limited PTQs.
Right.
In fact, we have one player this weekend who's going to play his first sanctioned match of Constructed in his life.
Round
in
1.
2 minutes.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Top 16 from Grand Prix at Limited. He's been playing Limited Grand Prix for years. Just never got around to playing Constructed. So that's a crazy story.
So yeah, we're going to see players tested in a way that they've never been tested before. I'm also really looking forward to seeing what impact Conflux has on a standard format that's really been dominated by fairies for the past couple of years.
Yeah, totally.
It feels like every time we're talking about Constructed, we've been talking fairies, fairies, fairies. Feels like suddenly we're talking about an entirely different animal now. Revelark.
Yeah,
has really loomed large over the format.
The red-white deck, we either call it Boat Brew or Red-White Lark or Red-White Windbrisk Heights. That deck might be more popular than Fairies. I mean, I definitely saw people talking a couple days ago, and they're like, "Wow, you don't want to be one of those tournaments where everybody's playing that deck." And you're like, "Why didn't I play that deck?" I assume the guy was talking about Fairies. He was talking about Red-White. Those are the 2 decks that everyone's got their targets on. Which means if you can beat Fairies and you can beat Red-White, you can win this Pro Tour.
As long as you can draft.
Fair enough. So one of the things I'm going to be keeping an eye out for, I've heard a couple people sort of whispering around the edges about Red-White Kifkin. Right, the 5-color, nobody's talking about it. Everybody's put their Vivid Lands away. There's not a lot of creature, wrath effects. You're either playing fairies or you're playing some kind of red-white deck. So the Kifkin deck thinks that it can come out fast enough and go and win through that. That's very interesting to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, there were 2 major standard events leading up to this Pro Tour offline. Obviously, it's an online premier event. There was a 60-person tournament in Japan 2 weeks ago that was dominated by red decks.
Yes.
Right. Red-white Boat Brew, red-white Kifkin, a rogue Swans of Bryn Argol deck in standard that was designed by former Rookie of the Year Yu Yu Watanabe.
Right.
To a top 8 finish. And then last week there was a 5K event in Richmond, Virginia, in the United States that there was nary a Boat Brew in sight.
Right.
We saw 7 different decks. We saw fairies. We saw 5-color.
Right.
We saw
the
question is for me: is Boat Brew all that it was cracked up to be, or is it lurking below the surface in Richmond? Had people figured out how to beat it? That's going to be the story. Yeah.
It is not below the surface. You're going to see tons of the Boat Brew running around here. So, going to be a really interesting weekend. Split format Pro Tour, standard with Conflux, some booster drafts. I'm looking forward to it. I think Kyoto is going to be a lot of fun to watch, and Brian and I will be here bringing you the coverage all weekend long. So keep your browser tuned to MagicTheGathering.com. For Brian David Marshall, this is Randy Buehler. So we'll be back soon.